Friends, when tough time hits hard, the situation could be devastating for many. Each one of us respond to the situation differently, and that's because it all depends on how we were raised, what environment we grew up in, what's our resistance level, how much effort we put into the thing that we just lost, and what is our mental state, if we are addictive to anything like that. There's so many different things that combine to affect the way behave in a certain situation, or we respond to the crisis. And I have seen this because I was there before, and I know how lonely the journey can be, how depressing it can be, how crazy it can get at times. My discussion will revolve around when we decide to give up on ourselves. And that is very, very critical to me because I've been in that situation before where things are so messed up. And unfortunately, we humans have the tendency to make things even worse for ourselves. So I was one of those people who actually made things worse for himself as I was going through the downfall. So I'll be sharing my story later on in the video if you keep on watching it, and then I'll try to come up with some point that will help us as we try to get back for the fight, as we try to get back into the system. So for the normal lifestyle. So I'm going to try to share some points here that help me, and hopefully that will help you guys as well. The reason why this is so critical to me because I know everyone, when a situation like these occurs, like as the world is going through these tough times right now, right? So the situation is so difficult to understand. And for so many people who have never been in any situation like this or any other situation of a tough time or resiliency situation where they really had to put up their effort to go out there and do things, it's nothing like that. So it's a unique experience. And in situations like that, we humans have tendency to take some crazy steps. The same way, like some people will find this as a growth opportunity, other people, a lot of us find this as a giving up opportunity on ourselves. Like we find all the excuses in the situation, or sometimes it's not even excuses. It's just like once you give up on yourself, and that's what I'm talking about. It's very tragic. It becomes so difficult. Because not only the person loses on themselves, but also the world loses on a part of the energy that uniquely belongs to this person. So going into extreme conditions or going on a self-destructive path or giving up becomes very easy versus standing up for yourself and taking the responsibility and fixing things and moving forward. But a lot of times, since we don't know the way, since we don't know, we have a mind made up, it becomes very difficult to tackle the situation. So sometimes things, when they get really out of control, when you don't know where to start from, even extreme situations can happen, like suicide. The other day, I was on Facebook, and one of my friend shared a post there, had several pictures on it. The gentleman in the picture, in one picture, he was playing violin. The other picture is with the family, and then another picture where he's teaching a class. And so all sort of like different pictures in different poses. And, person seemed to be very happy and a good looking person and all that stuff. So I look at the comment, and the post is in Spanish. So I couldn't read the comments, but it had some sad emojis next to them. I got curious. So things are, the way things are out in the world. So I wanted to ask my friend, see what's up. But before that, I just decided to translate that, as Facebook offers you translation. So I translated the post. So the comment said something like, you'll be missed, and you're looking at us from above, and we love you, and things like that. So my curiosity went up even more. I'm like, let me see what's going on here. So I asked my friend, like, what happened with this gentleman? They told me that this gentleman was a professor at this institute for the longest time, and put a lot of effort into the institute, brought a lot of revenue, did a lot of things. But because of the recent situation, all of a sudden the Institute decided to lay a lot of people off, and unfortunately he was one of them. Now, if you have the longer time that you have spent, the more effort, the more time you have put into something, the more attached you are to that thing. So the person, after losing the job, didn't know how to handle it. And especially with the situation going on, there weren't any jobs available and things like that. So the person fell in depression, and then eventually couldn't take it anymore. And maybe the things were already there, and then more added up to the situation. And then one day they found him hanging in his room. Suicide. Tragic. Now, that's the extreme side of giving up on ourselves. When I talk about the suicide, I mean, that's just something. Let me just insert a couple of things here. Suicide is a very impulsive decision when we decide to give up on ourselves, and we are like, you know what, since the pain that we are giving to the people around us, and since we get so disgusted by ourselves that all these thoughts starts coming to our head, and we're like, maybe it's easier for us to leave and not put people through this pain. Maybe when we are not here, these people will do better. But that's not true. Our mind plays games with us. 90% of the people who suicide or survive the suicide, stats show that they will never try the suicidal method again. And it's such an impulsive decision that 25% of the people who actually, who tried the suicide part and survived, 25% of them only had deliberated for 1 hour. 1 hour. Such a precious thing, and only deliberation for 1 hour, because we felt like that this is it. Cannot get out of it. There's no looking forward. There's nothing. And once I'm out of there, like, I guess things are going to get better. It could be very, very frustrating. That's the extreme part of it. Like, I've been there. The reason why I brought this topic up, because I know how difficult the situation could be. In 2009, after losing everything to the recession part, prior to that, I came to this country as a young immigrant. I worked hard day and night, slept on the floors, did whatever, learned the high income skill, and eventually, was able to get a breakthrough. So very early in my age, during 24, 25, I was already making six figures, had all the nice cars and house and anything that people can want and look forward to. So in my mind, I thought that everything is just going to keep on going up, because I did my part. I did all my hard work, and now, everything is fantastic. I was enjoying my time, my life, and till the life hits you. And then we become a little bit more stronger, and a little bit more wiser. And, once we go through that experience. So once our belief is shattered, once the belief is shattered, each person responds differently. Some people go to the extreme side of it, which is suicide, and then the other one is mostly on a self-destructive path, which I chose for myself. Like, we humans have the tendency, my friends, to mess ourselves up even more. Like, when we are going the downfall, we just have this tendency on ourselves. Like, if you're going on 25 miles an hour, we have the tendency to move ourselves on 80 miles an hour. So we can quickly go through it. So we can never get up. And that's because, we can't take the humiliation from the society. We cannot see ourselves. We get so disgusted by ourselves by when our dreams are shattered, because all this time when you were thinking that this is how things work, and all of a sudden everything just breaks in front of you, when your belief is broken, when there's an aha moment, things like that. It really, really is a painful situation. And for the longest time, me didn't know how to deal with it. Like, it's not that I didn't try, they were partial try. And on top of that, what I did, I expedited my process by using substance and getting myself into alcohol. So I decided to hide behind the substance for the time being, so I don't have to look at anything, because I hated it so much. I was so frustrated. I was so disgusted with my own experience that after creating so much, how can you lose all that? And I couldn't accept that. I was in so much denial that I just, that's the substance is the thing that I found for my escape. And anytime I'll basically come back to reality, I just didn't like it, because when we are up there and someone throws us down, whether it's our fault or it's not our fault, whether it's intentional or unintentional, when we fall down like that, all the extreme things start coming to our brain. All these things, like we want to get back. All these things start coming. We want to get back to the point where we fell from, but all these things starts coming to our head that, it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to get there. You're going to be such a humiliation. You're such a loser. Look what you did, and you wasted all this time, and you only had one chance in life, and this and that. So all these thoughts I was also going through my head. Like, I could not believe myself that I messed up so much. So instead of fixing that, what I wasn't realizing that instead of fixing that, I was messing them even more by not stopping myself from the behavior, by not disconnecting myself from the system. I was just in a race that anytime I wanted to get back to I wanted to start from the same place where I left off from. I didn't want to take any low ball. Like when I did take those less tier jobs or trying to get back into the system, I just couldn't, because my brain I kept on asking myself this question: how could you do this to yourself? How couldn't you see it? How couldn't you see the recession? How are you going to do all this thing? And I was on my way to create an empire. Anyone who asked me, I was so successful that the people will literally ask me what you're up to, and I was like, I'm about to create an empire eventually. And there you go, poof, right? Life, right? So it could be very devastating, and it took me a long time, and I messed myself up so much by that time that it took me a long time before I realized that I will have to confront myself. I will have to stop, and I will have to confront myself, and I cannot live in denial anymore. And just me by taking not my responsibilities, like, it's not going to do anything. It's like, it's my job to step up. And I start looking all my things in my childhood, all my achievements, all my things. And initially, the same thing that disgusted me from myself, that after achieving so much in your life, how could you ruin it so much? Like, the same thing became my power, because I was somehow, after going through all these experiences, after sleeping on the street, after having no money, after going through so much crazy stuff, I cannot explain all of that stuff, but believe me when I say that, I did some very stupid mistakes, like stupid. We do that. But the reason why, it's not about me. The reason why I'm bringing this story up, because I want to share my story and the way I was able to recover. So maybe if someone is out there who's dealing with a self-destructive behavior, if someone is thinking about, hurting themselves, or if someone is thinking of giving up on themselves, I want to just share this with them, that listen, things happen. It all starts from disconnection first. No one in the world is out there is like that they didn't have any issues. Each one of us went through some sort of issues in our life, whether we disclose it or not. You will, and that's where I don't disagree with a lot of these, some of these successful entrepreneurs. I'm like, when you guys come on board, maybe you want to share your unsuccessful stories when you had failures in your life. We get to hear from them a lot that our self-esteem is so high, we don't mind disclosing anything. But in reality, a lot of the incident that actually caused them failures when they were going through these depressive times, when they were going through all these things, a lot of times you won't hear those stories. And those are the stories that should come out, and not the success story that one finally, that, the brand that took off. But, I think what we should discuss is the 50 things prior to that actually didn't work out, that caused the person to almost take that drastic step of even suicide, where a person decided to give up on themselves, where the entire family couldn't take it watching the person going on a self-destructive path, and how painful it was. Like, I hurt so many people who were attached to me at the time. Like my close one, my family, friends had left me because, I realized, I learned another lesson there, that you have to step up and you have to take your own responsibility. But the loved ones that were close to me, I hurt them a lot. And that wasn't nice. And I didn't realize that it wasn't intentional. Because the society does accept you if you make an excuse. And it's not even an excuse, it's a genuine excuse that the society allows you to come and kind of like, get between them, and they will let you live based on whatever story you told them. But is that how you want to do it? I have apologized to my loved ones since then. And I still do, because I know how difficult it could be watching a loved one in front of you going on a self-destructive path. How painful it could be when you're trying to stop someone and they don't stop. But unfortunately, we humans have the tendency to do that to us. And that's where we come. So it wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy for me. It took me more than a year, couple of years, in fact, to get to that point where I could actually gather myself together after taking humongous losses, after destroying myself so much that I literally found myself in a corner. And I had to confront myself. So I'm going to share some points here that actually, when I started my journey again, when I actually decided to come out of denial, which was my best friend at the time, right? I didn't want to admit it. Whatever is happening, it just somehow I made up this thing around, this cage around my mind that, I wasn't able to believe. Like, I did not want to believe it, that this happened to me. But life teaches you. Life slaps you, punches you, kicks you, bruises you. And this is, if we survive that, then we become better. We grow out of it. And if we don't, then it could be very devastating. The first and the most important part in these scenarios, when we find ourselves in a situation where we feel like we are stuck, nothing is working for us, all this pressure start coming to us because we have family, kids, house, cars, job, all these things. The situation can be very overwhelming, because I have faced that as an immigrant, as a person who lost stuff in his life, as a lot of abuses that I had to go through in my life. It's just, I was able to see that, the things can be so overwhelming, because our mind starts showing us all these negative situations and how things are not going to work out and how we are such a loser and things like that. And then it becomes even worse if you're taking some substance and alcoholism and drugs, and just to feel safe and just try to avoid the reality. So if you're going through that cycle day after day, like for me, every morning I'll wake up, I'm like, today the world is going to be different. It's going to be a different day. It's going to be a different day. But since I wasn't changing my habits, since I wasn't changing my routine, since I wasn't disconnecting myself, I wasn't able to see. I was just overwhelming myself with every single thing that was out there that can happen to me, and that was causing me to mess things even up more. Because anytime I wanted to pick up a paper, I also was worried about the car and the house and the job and this and that, and everything will just start coming to my head, and made it even worse with all the drugs and stuff. And then over. Disconnect yourself from the situation. When you find yourself in it's the same situation when you have an argument at home. Sometimes you just go out and take a walk, right? Or if you go for meditation, like what they tell you to focus on your inside, right? The breathing exercises, all that does is it disconnects you from all the rest of the things that are happening around you. And focus on the inside, the joy on the inside, to focus on who you actually are, what you're actually looking for, how you see yourself, right? And not what you have lost in a car and a house and all these things. Like, these things weren't even there 100 years ago, right? So so we have to understand, like, what are we cursing ourselves for? Why are we do want to hurt ourselves? Why are we doing this to ourselves? So disconnection is extremely important. Disconnect yourself, go somewhere, enjoy the nature. Don't think about it. Even if you're going to mess it, even if everything is messed up, just don't. It's already messed up. What are you thinking about? Right? What are you thinking about? The only thing you can do is make it better. And that you can do by starting disconnecting yourself. That will be the first step. If you cannot disconnect yourself and you want to keep on doing the same thing, and if you want to keep on going through the same cycle, it could be very overwhelming for you. It could be very devastating at point if things don't work out, because 6 months later you might come to the same thing. You're like, you know what, let's just, and then by that time sometimes things can get really late, and we don't know if we haven't stopped ourselves by then. Things could be, sometimes people take some very, very drastic actions. So disconnect. The second step would be accepting our denial mode. I cannot emphasize enough that for the longest time, and it is one of the biggest hurdle to be successful, when we live in denial, when we think everything that we know in our mind is correct, when we are in a denial that things that are happening around us are actually true, and we decide, sometimes we are in such a denial mode that we hate it so much that we want to take substance abuse and alcoholism and all these other sort of things to create this web around us that consistently keep us hiding from the actuality, and we somehow able to convince ourselves that that how could it happen to me? Like, it's just in a denial that this cannot happen to me. This cannot happen to me. Like, I remember finding every single excuse that I could find in my life, all the way from childhood till now, to justify that why I was living in denial, that why things shouldn't have worked. But why things should have worked the way, and I put so much effort and I put so much hard work and I this and that, but that's not how it works. Life happens. So accepting the reality and accepting that we are in denial. So if we are in a self-destructive mode, or if we are not, if we are not able to admit the reality, we can consistently go through the same cycle over and over again, but it's not going to change, because we must confront ourselves at some point. We have to confront ourselves. We must face our fears. We must face it that it did happen, and things do happen other than how we think. This is a lesson. This is what nature teaches us. That's what makes us being human, that we think that things are going to work this way, but it doesn't work that way. And that's where the responsibility factor comes, that, we are just human and we tried our best, and we are going to keep on trying it, and let me try it in a completely different way maybe. So accepting the denial, living in denial is the worst thing. People will live in denial for the rest of their lives once they adaptive the giving up part, the self-destructive part, and they will just create a story around them, and they will keep on making it perfect over the time. As they tell the story more and more, they're going to keep on adding more and more things to justify their actions, that why they gave up on themselves. But that's not what we want to do. We rather work on the story, how to improve ourselves, than actually not accepting the reality. So accepting the denial will be the second biggest part. That's the second step to being resilient. Reevaluate your options. What I mean by that is, at any given time when we are working somewhere, we are using a combination of different skills, from time management to personal management to car driving, to be efficiently be able to communicate with people, to be able to manage things at work, to be able to complete the task at work. So it's not just working a job, even as a cashier's job, or if you're loading the inventory in the nighttime, and if you're doing whatever you're doing, it requires a lot of skills together to do one work, right? So after times like that, when we lose our job or something like that, catastrophe happen, and we kind of like feel down in ourselves, and we feel bad that why did this happen to us, we need to understand that and when situations are bad like that, we have to sometimes reevaluate our options. Especially if it's bothering us, like if the job is bothering us, maybe it's not the place for us. And sometimes we even have to break the skills down to smaller skills. Like, people lost their job, right? But then they know how to drive. So for the time being, since they can't find that $15,000 job, they started delivering pizza. They started doing Uber. they started doing all these other things. They start going online and start completing the Excel sheet for someone. They went on Upwork. They started doing a project for someone. They went online and did the tables for some company. So you see, the thing is, we humans don't like to fall from the peak. So when we are somewhere, I remember one of my friends used to say that. He's like, because we were so high, and he always used to refer that. He's like, I hope you guys never see or fall from there, because these things can be very painful. And I didn't understand back then, but I understood later on once I received my punch, right? So I was able to understand, and I still know till this day what he meant by that. So I know it could be very devastating. And for me, it was the same problem. I kept on looking for that $10,000 to $15,000 job that wasn't available at the time. And I was refused to accept the reality that maybe I need to, go around. And you will see some of these people saying that, I'll F that small opportunity and wait for the right thing to come around. I mean, these guys probably have millions of dollars sitting in their account. Their parents are rich and they can afford them for the next 6 months before they get that right opportunity. But for a lot of people, they don't have that opportunity. They don't have that time frame. They don't have that luxury of the family and wives and parents being rich and money sitting in the account because you inherited it and things like that. So we must focus on ourselves, reevaluate our options, write down the set of skills. And that is the beauty about humans, that we can reevaluate our options, we can create new memories, and we can change the feelings that we have. I would like to include this one example here. Normally experiments are done on rats, for medical things, for our medicines and things like that. So an experiment was conducted on 2 rats. One was a stronger rat and one was a weaker one. They allowed them to fight, right? So the weaker one lost several times, and then after that, they were left alone out in the world, right? They were left alone. So they saw that the weaker rat that lost, later on you could see the depression developing as the rat went into grew in his age. And you could see that the result of that defeat built in psychology, and as he grew, that thing still stayed there. But that's where humans differ. That's where we differ. We are not rats. We are not animals. We are social animals. We are emotional animals. But we are not rats. So we can create more memories. We can go out there and start actually doing that are positive and step by step. And then we can create more memories. And that's one of the most powerful to reduce the negativity. Instead of trying to reduce the negativity, we try to come up with more positive things and try to create more memories so we can get rid of these negative feelings and fill ourselves with the positive. So reevaluate your option. Even if you have to step down for the timing, for the survival mode, and have to take that job of, a cashier or an Uber driver and this and that. Don't be shy. Don't look at the humiliation, what your friends are going to say. No one is going to pay your bills. They're not going to come and save your house. They're not going to come save your car, right? So the last thing on your mind should be worried about people, that what are they're going to say about you. So think about yourself, evaluate your options, and work your way up again. It doesn't matter, even if for the time being you have to step down and do something differently. But in a longer version, if you know where you're going, you just have to get ready before you can go back in the ring and fight again. Reevaluate your options. The 4th point will be write the plan. I cannot emphasize enough that how much profound effect writing has on us. There's so many things, and I can tell you from my experience, I write a lot of articles, and a lot of times the things that are in my head, I'm thinking one way, but by the time I'm going to write them on a piece of paper, they come out completely different, and then you change it again, and then you sometimes I go back and look at my articles, I'm like, who wrote this? And then I realize I'm the one, because all this stuff is in your head. It's right there, and we cannot tell, because we cannot think about 70,000 thoughts at the same time. That all these things are in our head. So writing your plans, like once we have explored our options, which that other option that we can utilize, we can actually write a plan for ourselves. The plan can be very realistic. Like at this time, since you're trying to recover from it and you're trying to move forward, I will recommend being one step at a time. Very famous sentence, but that is so true. One step at a time. Till you start running, till you start walking and get into the momentum, till you're ready to go back into the ring and fight again. Do not, when you're on the floor and you can't get up, don't think about winning the fight at that point, that I'm going to knock this guy out, right? Think about getting up and throwing that next punch, and think about that next move that you have. So write your plan and write that first step that you're going to do, one step at a time. That is so imperative, because your mind is going to tell you all about these other things, and look at this, what they're doing and what they're doing and what they're doing. Now, write your plan and work on that. One step at a time is so important at this time, especially when you're starting over again. I cannot say it enough. So write the plan and write down all those things that you have in your mind, because that just allows you to see even your fears and your strengths and your weaknesses in front of you, that what you're thinking of, and then you can actually rationally pick the thing that makes sense to you, that can happen in worst case scenarios, and things that cannot happen, and the things that are most likely to happen, and then make them a part of your plan, like, how you're going to start it, and then start with that one step at a time. One step at a time. Write the plan one step at a time. The fifth step will be follow the plan and what I call play your natural game. Again, the fifth step will be follow the plan and play your natural game. Now, what I mean by your natural game, when I grew up in Pakistan, and cricket was my favorite game, and whoever is familiar with cricket, they can probably relate to this. I was the opener in cricket batting side, and then I played very well. There's two types of crickets. One is with a soft ball, which is played on local level, and then you have a hard ball, which is played on international level. And when you go out there, at a much higher game. So I was very good, and my seniors decided to take me into these major events, right, where I was going to play with them. So 2-3 games in a row, and as I opened the batting side, within the first couple of overs, I'll be out, right? And I'll either throw a catch, or I'll just run out, or it will be ball hit the pad, something. So very devastating. So my coach called me in, and then he was like, "What is going on? Wahid, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I try to be in a defensive mode, and I try to, I'll try to be, I'm just trying to hold on to a few overs, so after that I can play my natural game." And he just looked at me. He got so mad. He was like, "Why are you going against your natural game? Why are you trying to be someone else? We must look at ourselves, what our natural game is, what our natural strength is." So that did hit me. He's like, "You know what? You should." So I turned around. I told him, I was like, "Listen, I want to be like these guys, because I don't want to get out." So he looks at me. He's like, "Listen, you get out in a much faster way by playing their games than actually if you had played your own game. You probably would have done way better, and probably wouldn't be even out, and probably would have done a century or something like that, maybe in a team winning in a winning situation." So once we have written down our plan, the next step is to follow the plan, and that by using our natural talent, like who we are. So when we're about to restart, it is extremely imperative that we don't want to become like how these other guys are doing. Like, we have to realize what our strengths and weaknesses, like how can I perform if like my physique is weak and I can't just go to the gym and lift up all these weights. Maybe I need to go to the swimming. Maybe I need to practice that and get my muscles strong, or maybe I need to go for something else before I can jump into that ring again, before I can go out and do powerlifting. So following the plan becomes imperative when you have written it down. Like, we don't want to make any more excuses. Like, this is once you've written down, this is what I'm going to do, then the step is to basically get up and do it naturally. So your natural talent by using your natural talent and how you are, so you can grow yourself. So you're not in a process of getting back into the market or getting back out there. You're not partially someone else and partially you, because the combination is not going to be good and you're going to be bothered by it eventually. So it's better if we play our natural game, and because what worked for them might not work for us. So follow the plan that we have and we play our natural game. The sixth point becomes staying consistent and celebrating our achievements. After losing everything in 2009, and I was putting myself in worst case scenario, as we humans do, we try to expedite our downfall. At some point, I decided to get myself evaluated because I knew there was something wrong and I couldn't figure out the way. The situation was so overwhelming that I finally decided, I'm going to go and have a sit down with a team of doctors and ask them if there's something wrong with me, or like, how should I perceive it, right? So I sat with a team of 15 doctors, 12 or 15 doctors. I mean, it was and we start talking. So the senior doctor asked me he's like, what is the reason behind your behavior? Why are you acting the way you are? Like, you are so talented and you have done so much and this and this. So I told him, I was like, I am sort of disgusted with myself. Like, I am humiliated the way I performed. Like, it is unbelievable to me that after doing so much, like, I wanted to create an empire, and it just, the foundation, just after working so many years, the foundation just, tsunami came and took off the whole foundation. So he looked at me, he's like, hold on. He's like, you seem pretty young. How old are you? And then looked at my paper, 27 years old. He's like, so how long did you work on your empire dream? And I'm like, at that point I was 5-6 years into it, and just, the foundation just got wiped. And so he's like, don't you think it's a little bit too early to think that you're going to have an empire, and just 5 years is not enough? Because empires can take lifetimes to create, and sometimes even generations for an empire to stand up. So you just working 5-6 years of really, really, really hard work, in your mind, you probably think that you're eligible for that. But, actually empires are not created this quickly. So you shouldn't think that empire will be out there in 5 years. It's just not there. So if you want to do something, you must stay consistent with your plan, and you must keep on doing it, and you must face the hurdles that come across and pass them. And eventually you might, if you keep on doing it, if you stay consistent, and if you don't stop and you increase your momentum and you keep on increasing your hard work, you might one day will create an empire. But for that, you must stay consistent. You cannot just give up after 5 years, a few years, that are 15. I mean, I understand it's 10, 15, 20. Sometimes some people have 20, 25 years of work, and then all of a sudden everything just, went off. And then it's really, really crazy. But that's just being human. We humans cannot control it. Some stuff is in our control and other stuff is not. And a lot of time nature will put us through the pain because we are able to tolerate that. And that lesson might not be for us, but to help someone else later on in life. And that's when you realize that maybe that was the meaning of, my life. But that's really crazy. The other part of the consistency is the celebration part. Often we forget to celebrate our small achievements. Like, we are so focused on our long-term goal. Like, we are so focused that we don't want to celebrate the small milestones that we achieved on the way. And when things like that happen, a tsunami comes, or then we weren't able to celebrate all those achievements, and now we have nothing in front of us to celebrate anyhow. So it becomes even more depressing that you weren't able to enjoy any moment along the way because you were so into the long-term happiness that we forgot we forgot to celebrate the short-term happiness as we're going through it. So that doesn't mean going out to the bar, drinking, going crazy, and just passing out. That just means that having a nice dinner, having a nice time, maybe movie, maybe going out, something like that. That becomes a memory. So later on, if we are in a sad mode, we can think about all these happy moments, as we humans tend to think in pictures. They become our motivation. They become our motivation for with the achievements that we did this and this, and become happy moments in our mind. So consistency good, keep on doing it, follow the plan, keep on pushing higher, but also celebrate those milestones. The seventh step to the discussion is look in the future, but stay in present. Now, we all want to see ourselves to be doing really, really well in the future. We want to see ourselves doing well in the present, but we all would more than likely want to see ourselves doing really well in the future. And most of the time, we spend our time thinking about the future. And you can see that you can actually, if you ever, standing in a restaurant and you want to go out and get something from the car, you will realize that most of the time you will not realize what happened between you started walking and all the way to the car. Like we are already there. Like we are already there. So what is happening between now and getting to the car? And you often see one of your friends calling you from there. It's like, hey man, I waved at you, you didn't look at me, because in our mind, we are already somewhere else. Consistently, our mind shows like it wanders. And a lot of times we think about the future, like what's going to happen in the future. But the only way we can make our future, or we can work on our future, is by staying in present. So we have to break that thing. It's lovely to let your mind wander sometime, because it can do some crazy things, can take you to some, like I wrote some crazy articles just by letting my mind wander, and then these thoughts, and you're able to pick up these frequency, the thoughts from this frequency, this channel that's out there. And but nothing can we do in the future by sitting here. The only thing that we can do is by doing something in present, like by being present in this thing. So if I want to become rich tomorrow, instead of sitting and thinking about that, this big of a house, this big of a car, this big of a plane, this yard, the whole 9 yards, but the only way I can make it happen is by focusing on what is happening today. What are the ingredients that I have? How can I use my energy today, my time that I have right now? So having a vision, looking into the future, thinking about the future is 100% okay. We all do that. We think about it. But a lot of time that causes anxiety, and then the cycle starts repeating itself because we consistently move our leg, move our hand. Like you will see, you will be able to notice yourself when you're anxious. And that's consistently happens because we think about the future. Past brings us, just to insert that in there, the past brings us pain, and future brings us anxiety. And by staying in present, we can actually perform and make our future. We can even overcome our past. So if we have done bad, we can create more memories in the present to overcome the negativity in the past. And then we can also secure our future. So staying in present, my friends. And these are the 7 steps that I want to share with you guys. If you guys have any questions, if you guys are dealing with that situation, if you guys are any of your loved one is dealing with the situation, or they're about to give up, or they already have given up, if you have any questions for me, I've been through that situation. I took a long recovery mode before I actually was able to go out there again in the ring and fight back and take all these trophies and whatever it is, the so-called trophies. But I might be able to help you with these questions. So please feel free to comment below. And if there's anything else you want me to open up, because there's a lot more discussions that I can go into these things. But of course, I don't want to go the discussion to be hours and hours. Maybe not here, but if you have any question, feel free to reach me at. You can follow me on my YouTube channel at Wahid Khan. You can follow me on my website, alwaysstrong.com. You can follow me on my Facebook page, Always Strong and Wahid Khan. Praying for you guys a lot. I love you guys. Take care of yourself. Things are going to get better. Do not do anything stupid. Don't give up on yourself. And I don't have the moral authority to talk about it, but if I have to give someone an advice, and someone is sitting out there and thinking about it, that you should should I start the alcoholism or the drugs because it let me cheer, I will just simply tell them that if you are not into these things, don't even try them for the happy moments, because there's a high likely chance that you might start with being just enjoying these things in the happy moments, but then when things hit the fan, then you might be at that time we will use this as an escape, and then that can trigger a cycle and take us even more down the hole than actually life will just normally throw us at. So take care, guys, and be safe out there, and disconnect and restart the process, and do not judge yourself for anyone. If someone is laughing at you, instead of disconnecting you, instead of hurting yourself, you might want to disconnect these people out of your life.